Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in Fresno, California. Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley, the heart of the great state of California. Got a whole lot of heart going on here. Got a whole lot of creative activity and creative energy happening here. And I'm glad to be here today. And I hope you're glad to be here today, too. And I hope you started your day before you even opened your eyes and gave thanks for the gift of the day, declared, because you have that power to declare that this day, this gift that was given to you by the divine principle, by that which we call God, the one life, is your day to live at a greater, higher degree of livingness, live the most and the best that you can, because that is truly living your purpose. And when we do that, not only do we feel it, we recognize, and we have that inner knowingness, because that inner place within us is given many different names. It's called the Christ within, God within, the life energy within. However you relate to that which exists within you that demonstrates itself as your life, you're here to express that at greater and higher degrees. That's our purpose. That's why we're here. And we've been going through this thing called life, or the art of life, depending on what year the particular publication of the book. Last week, I took a break from the book as we were approaching the end, and I went through and spent some time on there's so many there's so many places within the book we call the textbook, the Science of Mind, that I feel are just so critically important. And they all really are. Depending on where we're at any given time, they touch us, teach us, provide guidance, if you will. But that which can be found on page 423, it's the final conclusion. And in the first paragraph of that, Holmes said he'd rather see a student of this science put it into practice, than to learn all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. And he went on to say that it's easier to teach than it is to put this into practice. And those are very true words. But for the one who takes the time to do that, the reward is incredible. That's where we're at. We're taking the time. We're going to put this into practice in our life. We're going to realize that our purpose in life is not to live a life of suffering. It may be a life that we have to work, we may have to struggle, but struggle helps us overcome. It helps to strengthen us. Struggle teaches us. And when we approach struggle with a positive mindset, even during those times when Struggling doesn't provide the outcome that we want. We learn, and through learning we grow. And through growing we can come back and we're stronger the next time. We can struggle more. And Holmes, he says that pretty succinctly on page, I believe it's like 107. Let me look up here real quick because I didn't mark this beforehand. Yeah, on page 107 of the textbook, Holmes titles this section, "The World Has Learned All It Should Through Suffering." In the second paragraph of that section, he says, "The world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence, as in divine intelligence, in the universe that wishes man to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion." What a wise challenge for so many of us those words are, because, hey, life tells us that life is suffering. We've learned that life is suffering. We're actually influenced as we come into life with the concept that life is suffering. If you happen to have the Holmes extension studies, this is from an earlier version of that, but on, let's see if I can give you the, hold on lesson 30, what is this? I think it's lesson 38. 39, okay, in lesson 39, Holmes talks about, and I want to share this with you. It's not, I'm going to take it because what he says is true in many different applications, but for someone that is kind of new to New Thought, Science of Mind and Spirit, this idea, he says, whether we call this the human mind, and he's talking about the hypnotic influence which negative thought holds over our individual life. And there is as we come into the world, and he says, whether we call this the human mind, he's not talking about individual, but the human mind, the mortal mind, the carnal mind, the collective unconsciousness, or race suggestion, or race consciousness, makes no difference. We certainly are immersed in a composite thought atmosphere, which has been generated throughout the ages. You know, we talk about on the positive side that everything that we would want to know, the answer can be found within. And if you don't believe that, you know, read the biography of someone like an Edison or an Einstein, that these ideas, they just kind of seem to pop up, an intuition, if you will. Many great inventors give their credit to this inner voice, this inner intuition. But the same goes on the other side. We hold ourselves in a belief of limitation, not because we've been particularly taught limitation, but life teaches us. Race consciousness influences us. Our journey is to make that shift in our consciousness. And as we begin our spiritual journey in New Thought, in religious science, science of mind and spirit, we begin to shift how we look at life. And we don't look at life as suffering. We look at life as a challenge. And it's a challenge that we have in potential everything that we can need, want, and desire to not only meet that challenge, but transcend that challenge, overcome that challenge, come out on the other side of that challenge, living life vigorously, abundantly, in health, in harmony, in happiness, in peace, in love. That's our purpose. We're going to take our first break. I'll see you when we come back.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find the Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss G. I offer fun and affordable promotion and advertisement on my talk show. It is called Fresno Vibes. We talk, we play awesome music. I also feature a bunch of different bartenders from different places. I like to have restaurants. I like to have any event, any kind of fun stuff. Contact me at rmgmissg@gmail.com and we will have so much fun and we will promote your business, promote your event right here on my show. So contact me. We'll have fun. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Chris DeVold. Tune in every Friday night on CentralValleyTalk.com when I bring you Sex, Drugs, Chris DeVold, where I'll give you 3 guesses on what we talk about. And I also vow to bring you 1 live local music act a week. So tune in every week because you never know what kind of music you're going to hear right here on CentralValleyTalk.com.
A dynamic litigator, in-tune listener, and forward thinker with almost a decade of experience, Nasser Nekumanish is a skilled attorney servicing clients throughout the Central Valley. When you need a lawyer, call 559-441-0114 and ask for Nasser Nekumanish.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference remain unresolved.
Police are saying the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful Fresno, California. So, all right, in the book, we are in chapter 12. And Holmes opens this up. He says, you do not have to struggle. He makes that declaration right at the beginning. As you've gone through this book and you've read and hopefully been able to put into practice, through practice, what the book has been teaching, he says, you do not have to struggle. You have discovered that life, with a capital L, life itself, works through a law of mind and how your thought automatically is acted upon by this law. The great law, the law of cause and effect. You can now transfer the burden of personal responsibility into that law. Now that's, sometimes that transfer, a lot gets lost in the transfer sometime for some people. Understanding that we create our own reality. If we understand that, then we understand that we share a good deal of responsibility in the reality that we experience. But what Holmes has been teaching us, he says, we can now transfer the burden of personal responsibility into the law. Well, how do we do this? Well, we do this through growing our receptiveness, growing our belief, vitalizing our faith. It's done unto us as we believe. And at the level of our belief, we will see demonstration in our life. So we can transfer the burden of personal responsibility into the law, but only at the level of our belief. So the question is, why not grow your belief? How do we grow belief? Well, we grow belief by putting what we've learned, the principles that we've learned, putting them into daily spiritual practice. There's a reason why we spend time every day quieting the mind in a kind of a mindfulness meditation, if you will. Now, in that meditation, we're not necessarily looking to do anything other than quiet the mind. And quieting the mind is a skill. And it's important because as we do quiet our mind, we kind of take the static, if you will, that runs in the background of consciousness, kind of turn the volume way down on that. So that when we take our next step, and our next step is in our affirmative, in our daily, maybe multiple daily practice of affirmative prayer. And we've kind of gone through this before. When we do this, the first step is also kind of a meditative step. So if we've done our mindfulness meditation, we move into our affirmative prayer, and we do our opening kind of meditative step with that. And in that, we recognize within ourselves and we declare that recognition of really, in a sense, the truth of who we are and our relationship to that truth. We recognize there's one creative principle, source, cause, power, God, goddess, however you want to, whatever name that you want to hang on it. It is the infiniteness that is everywhere presence. It is everywhere knowledge, knowingness, and it is all everywhere power. That we recognize this, and in our recognition of this, we also declare our realization that if it is all that, then we are that expressing as us. In other words, we are immersed in, surrounded by, infused through, and driven in this life experience and expression as us by this creative source. We are a unity with it. I used the metaphor a couple classes back, shows back, of imagine, if you will, that God is some kind of this infinite diamond or jewel. And each individual that has lived, that is living, that will live, because this jewel is infinite, but each individual is a facet on that jewel, just like a facet on a diamond. You know, it's a funny thing about a good diamond cutter, if they mess up as they're cutting that diamond, they'll ruin the potential brilliance that diamond can have. We are gifted with this life experience that we will shine our individual and individuality in our personal facet on this diamond of this infinite jewel of God. The entire infiniteness of it is still this unity, this oneness. But we still express as a very distinct individuality as part of it. Now, if we don't get our stuff shine perfectly, it's okay, we've got more time. Well, we got something beyond time, actually. But it's always available to us. God, the divine, gifted us with our consciousness, our beingness, our spiritual beingness. We are created in the image and likeness, the nature, and we shine, and we seek to shine at greater and higher degrees. We do not have to, and as Holmes is using the word struggle here, and I meant to clarify this, we don't have to struggle in the sense of suffering, but we do have to struggle as in the struggle that a musician goes through as they're learning to master their particular instrument. We work, we put forth. So in that sense, there is a struggling but not suffering. He says we have a partnership with this invisible, with God, with this creativeness. Our silent partner, the law of mind, and it will always create good, the particular good that we will need, want, and desire in that moment so that we can continue to express livingness at a higher, greater degree. That's why we're here. He says it's right where we live, And right where we live, there's more abundant life to be lived. There's a greater degree of livingness, a greater adventure to be had, a greater personal experience that is self-fulfilling, self-satisfying, that leads us into this consciousness of incredible beingness. He says, it is right that we all should seek greater happiness for ourselves and for others. And as we seek greater happiness for ourselves, we do so as we seek greater happiness for others. And sometimes there are people that think, well, their happiness, their good, has to be won at the expense of someone else. That's kind of the basis for a lot of chaos in the world, a lot of discord, because there are people that say, well, you have to give up your good so that someone else can be happy, or whole and complete. Or someone else will go, I have to take and get all that I can in order for me to be happy, whole, and complete. And both those are fallacies. They're untruths. They're lies that humanity has told itself over the eons, if you will. Because our consciousness as humanity, I talked about this idea of the collective unconsciousness or the human mind or race suggestion or race consciousness, as Holmes talked about. That all is representative of the evolutionary history of humanity, but it doesn't have to write the story today, just like it didn't write the story when our ancient ancestors reached a point of self-recognition, that I am moment. And yet, in consciousness, all the evolutionary forces, which were more of a physical nature, still held sway over our ancient ancestors, such that, fear was their number one stimulator, motivator. And today it's a holdover. It still can be, but it doesn't have to be. And this is where Holmes talked about, once we got to that I am moment, that we realize from that point on, all of our evolution would be motivated, energized by our consciousness. And this is where we're at. We're at a historic point right now. Holmes talked about it in what I just read. He says the world is beginning to realize it has learned all that it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes man to be sick, unhappy. He says, surely if God or universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, it then could not ordain that man should ultimately be other than perfect and a perfect expression of life. He says the science of mind and spirit makes this tremendous claim when it states the individual should be free from bondage of sickness and poverty. It does, however, carefully set forth the conditions under which this freedom operates and the laws governing life, stating in no uncertain terms that unless man understands, humanity understands these conditions and obeys these laws, they will not receive the full benefit of its teachings. And we're at that point where we can choose, we can make that choice individually to embody within our life, to align with those laws. If you live in a society based on laws, you find that you live in that society at a much greater degree of harmony when you abide by the laws. And of course, we want those laws to be reasonable, don't we? We want those laws to be understandable and to be spread and applied equally to all. And that's the way the laws, the spiritual laws, are. They apply equally to all. They've been left for us to discover, left for us to realize the truth of what they are, left to us to realize our relationship with that truth, and then begin to embody it and then demonstrate it in our life. And as we do as individuals, we uplift the entire world, if you will, the entire human race. So we're going to take our next break. I'll see you when we come back.
Are you thinking of selling your home? Since 2004, the Souza Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has specialized in premier property listings and sales located in the Clovis Unified and North Fresno markets. The Souza Group will do their best to exceed your expectations. Visit ClovisUnifiedHomes.com.
If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, it's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service. 559-213-9430 and visit cleanmasterflood.com.
Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Forget about the higher good of food, right? You're growing a product that people enjoy really all over the world. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I think about that all the time. I think about the families sitting around a table, enjoying a meal. I just see that what we do brings families together.
I mean, we're blessed. We're in paradise for food.
The Kern family of the Kern Family Farm invites you to eat delicious, nutritious, organic produce available at the Gnarly Carrot, located at 32954 Road 222 in North Park, California. The Gnarly Carrot is a local, natural, seasonally changing market offering a wide range of products from local Central Valley vendors. Get your caffeine fix, grab a smoothie, and support small businesses. Learn more at KernFamilyFarm.com and visit the Gnarly Carrot today. Dr. in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in Fresno, California. I'm looking at how much I've covered, how much I've got left to cover. We'll probably finish chapter 12 next week or the week after because there's so much here that's so important. So anyway, I'm going to go back here again. Holmes writes, he says, it is right that we all should seek greater happiness for ourselves and for others. It is right. It is correct. It is good. It is our purpose to seek right, to enjoy goodness in our life, each and every one of us. And yeah, I realize, and I've talked about in the past, there are individuals that are born in really difficult conditions or difficult circumstances. And those individuals, once they have access to the truth of who they are, and they live in that truth, their lives change. They are no longer subject to the conditions that they might have been born into, but they are now, if you will, they're co-captains of the ship of their life. They can be empowered. But it's important, again, to understand that as we lift ourselves up, that we bring others with us. You know, again, I'll go back to the teaching when the master teacher said we are to love God with all our heart, all our soul, basically all that we are. And we understand that God being the all of all that is, that as we love God with all that we are also self-inclusive in that understanding of love. But Jesus went on to clarify, because the second part can be a little difficult for some people, that we love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And there's no exceptions to that. As I've said in the past, that doesn't mean we become doormats. It doesn't mean that we become subject to somebody's less than positive behavior. We can establish good, healthy boundaries and realize that those boundaries are there not only for our expression in our life to be at the highest and greatest degree that we can bring into our life experience, but also so that we can know that on the other side of that boundary, there is still that which is the divine, which is God expressing as that individual, and we love them also. And it's an amazing thing. Sometimes as we do that, the need for those boundaries begin to melt away. Ultimately, as the greater humanity comes to that awareness and that consciousness, there'll be no need for boundaries. But it's a process, and we got to move forward. We'll never move forward if we sit in judgment. We'll never move forward if we stay in hatred. And I say we can talk about humanity, but we can talk about our individual selves, our individual life experience. We are limited, extremely limited, held in bondage, if you will, by what goes on between our ears, behind our eyes, that is not in alignment with the divine principle, that which we call good or God or love. So he says, we may then unhesitantly transfer this sense of personal burden, placing it upon the shoulders of the law, which is able, always ready, and ever willing to work for us. There is a law. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are powerful things when we begin to realize the truth of what they are. It's not just a realization, it's a discovery, if you will. It's kind of like going out behind your house and opening up this box, and there's these little switches in there, and we think, well, that's just switches. No, it's the electric box, and there's power there. Well, we have that same kind of ideal within ourselves. There are switches there, there's power there, and that power abides within us because we are created in the image and the likeness and the nature of the divine, because we are living consciousness expressing, and our ability to express is governed by our volition, our choice. And I've said many times in the past, our choice is the most powerful tool that we have. You can say, well, thoughts, the law, so on. It all starts with a choice. Now, we can choose consciously or we can be unconscious in the choices we make, but we still are making those choices. So he says here, this is not selfishness. When we transfer the burden, if you will, to the law. He said this is not selfishness, but self-expression. That's when we begin to take conscious control of how we think and utilize the law. And so when we talk about meditation and affirmative prayer, this is where we're going. This is the destination of that, if you will. He says, man exists that life through him may more completely express itself. Humanity exists, that life, that the divine, that spirit, that first cause, that source, however you want to relate to it. You can call it George for all I care. That it may express through us at ever greater and higher degrees of livingness. And you got to ask the question then, if that's our purpose, if that's why we're here, why do we live a life of limitation? And we do so because we have allowed ourselves to be tied to our story of limitation, our story that has its roots in race consciousness or the collective unconsciousness. It's time to free ourselves, to break those bonds, to take our story, realize that it is a history book, if you will. But that history book we can fold up. We can take that volume, put it on the shelf of our memory, and not allow it to be the controlling factor in our day-to-day life experience. One of the great tools, I can't think of the guy's name, but when he came up with the idea of a complaint-free world, and I believe they're still out there, it's still available. If you've not ever utilized it, I highly encourage you to use it as an individual, or if you happen to be a spiritual organization, to utilize it to help train yourself to one, become aware of how much you do complain, and two, to change that habit. Habits are, they're tough. Just think about people that try to give up, and you can put whatever it is, bad behavior, drugs, smoking, doesn't make any difference. Habits can be difficult, but there is no habit, not a single one, that can't be broken when you make a commitment to do it and live in that commitment. And in this particular case, as you do, you have a co-pilot, you have a co-engineer, a co-energy that seeks to see that you are successful, but you got to go to it. It lays at your doorstep and waits for you to open the door. You got to open it. Okay, he says, be careful to differentiate between the law of mind and the spirit. And now he wants to differentiate between the law of mind and spirit. Spirit is the divine. The law of mind is what it does. So it's like the light bulb and the light that shines. The light bulb, when you turn on the electricity, that which emanates from it, is what it does. It's the same with life. The law of mind is a mathematical and impersonal force operating upon our thought images. And we have no thought images that we can kind of sneak by. You just can't. Well, I want to be in alignment with principle everywhere except for here. Now, here could be a poor self-image. Here could be living in a consciousness of judgment. It can be some people live their life in a very fear-based way, and they don't necessarily want to give up that fear-based way. Arguments can be made for being protected by living in a fear-based way. But you also are in that protection. You're living in that cell that you have, basically condemned yourself to. So he says this law is like other laws of nature and should be thought of in that life. Life itself is a spiritual presence in the universe, the infinite person back of all personality. It is warm, colorful, it is and responsive, and it is the essence of love, beauty, and wisdom. And if we live close to its nature, we shall always be using the law of mind constructively, and only good can follow. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Easier said than done, but it can be done. It's when you look at a master of any craft or of any instrument, of any aspect of life, it's easy to say, boy, I'd like to be like that. It reminds me, there's a story, and I can't remember who the pianist was, world famous. Story's not original to me, but I can't tell you where I heard it, and you may have heard it before. But he was giving a concert somewhere in front of a group of people, and when he was done, there was a woman of some substance, wealth, if you will, that approached him afterwards, and she said, I'd give anything to play the way you play. And he said, no, you wouldn't. And she was kind of offended. He said, what it took for me to play the way I played tonight, you have been unwilling to do to put into practice in your life. So be aware. Don't lie to yourself. And one of the great things, once you begin and you make that decision to follow a spiritual path, is you no longer have to lie to yourself. But that doesn't mean that the truth has to be somewhat brutal. It just means that in recognition of the truth of who we are, we have a bigger God, and we start there. there is that loving embrace of the divine principle that awaits each of us. So we seek that within ourselves. Boy, time has just gotten away from me today. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, I might not get to where I even wanted to today, but we'll try to get to it in this last segment. If not, we'll pick it up next week. So I'll see you after the commercial break.
Hi everyone, I am Sparkle Sujin with the Everything Sparkle Show. Tune in every Thursday live at 4 p.m. You will see people that are motivational, inspirational, inspiring, and of course, entertaining. We have a great time. We learn things about how big celebrities are inspiring big names here in Fresno. Hugh Hefner is the reason we have Fresno Magazine, and Gnarly Charlie got his start because Johnny Carson told him to. So, tune in, you'll learn something new, and have a good time.
Visit the beautiful city of Exeter and visit exeterchamber.com. The Chamber's mission is to promote, support, and enable Exeter to prosper, creating a strong local economy, promoting community, and providing networking opportunities. Follow the Chamber on Facebook and Twitter, or give the Chamber a call at 559-592-2919.
Call PG's Catering for all your special occasions. Available to cook any variety of foods and desserts that will leave your taste buds wanting more. Call 559-558-2682 and follow Peaches on Instagram and Facebook.
Is everything in life draining you? Come to Stretch 360. Our professional staff can offer you many options for relaxation like deep tissue or hot stone massages, infrared medical grade sauna. Once you leave us, you'll look and feel like $1,000,000. Stretch 360. Relaxation is only a stretch away.
Call Nicole Hamilton McManus at 559-917-3040 to buy this perfect, romantic, rustic ranch with a 2-home setup. Located only 12 miles from the entrance to Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks. This beautifully maintained property boasts of amenities and custom features. The main home is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,670 square feet. The guest home is 2 bedrooms, 1 bath with 1,163 square feet. Also features a 75-foot lap pool, a cabana, a beautiful garden, and 2 small nearby ponds. Call Nicole Hamilton McManus at 559-917-3040. The Art of Becoming Who We Are in Christ by Jolene Kennedy is a book about the process of maturity as we find our true identity, since God's promises must be received, embraced, and activated within us. Get your copy today and check out JoleneKennedy.com. Fleet Feet Fresno is more than just a running and sportswear store. Fleet Feet Sports' mission is to provide runners and other active Fresnans with gear that fits their individual needs, training that helps them reach their fitness goals, and races that satisfy their competitive spirit. Get to know Fleet Feet Fresno today.
Hi, I'm the host of New Thought Talk, Reverend Steve Walling, and I want to take a moment today and give you an opportunity to support our ministry, support our show. You can do that through a PayPal payment. You send the payment through PayPal to the email address of Madera, MADERASAC @gmail.com. If you don't have a PayPal account, you can go down below the link and you can find where you can enter a debit or credit card. I want to thank those that have supported us and those that will continue to support us. You have a great day. Bye. So, welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. So move right along here. Holmes writes, he says, the goodness of life does not deny the operation of the law of cause and effect. The goodness of God does not deny the operation of natural laws. He said, throughout the ages, unfortunately, there has been great confusion because people have not realized that the karmic law of cause and effect is different from the spirit. just as the electric energy is different from the electrician. But more succinctly, the law of cause and effect is not what God doesn't keep score. When we make a mistake, life comes back at us. The punishment is in the mistake that we make. It's kind of like stepping on a rake, if you will. It's not the rake's fault. And if we step on the rake just right, well, the handle can go by us. But the thing is, either way, once we realize where we've made a mistake, we can change our position within that. And like I say, God doesn't keep score. In the past, that's been kind of one of the main foundational beliefs, that God keeps score and somehow we've got to settle that score at some point in time. Well, we settle that score right in the moment oftentimes, because the punishment is in the thought and the action in the mistake that we make. And once we realize that, then we can begin to see how, if we don't make mistakes, we're not going to deal with that. And it starts and it ends right there. And again, power of choice, power of decision, how we choose to position ourselves, as they say, within the law, okay? If we want to create good in our life, then we intend and we create good in our life, and we'll experience good. We don't create good in our life by telling other people what they have to do in order that we can feel good. It doesn't work that way. We can't take from them in order to lift ourselves up, but we can help them and work with them and lift everybody up in the process. And that's kind of the understanding. He says the nature of life is such that the universe is filled with an infinite presence and permeated with an infinite law. There's an infinite presence, and the law is everywhere present also. The law, just like the law of gravity. You know, we don't think about gravity, but no matter where we go, we're subject to that law. And it's not like there's some little law gremlin from Earth that walks around to make sure that it's just there. And once we begin to understand that we're always subject to it, then we can begin to make sure that we don't put ourselves in positions where the law of gravity is going to tap us on the shoulder in a way that we don't want to be tapped, so to speak. Okay? He says, from this presence, which is pure spirit, we receive counsel, guidance, and comfort. The law of mind, like any other law in nature, is our servant, and we should use it with complete authority. We don't use it from a position of inferiority. We are the child of the infinite, creative source, force of the allness. And as that child and an expression of it in our life, we have everything available to us in potential. We gotta bring our mind around to that, and we got to align ourselves with that. And as we do, things change in our life and the lives of those around us. He says, it's not that life punishes us, but that we punish ourselves through our ignorant use of the law. And I'm going to kind of rush through this because I want to get to this last segment I'm going to close with. He says, we should think of the divine presence as infinite joy, beauty, and wisdom. We should think of the law as a limitless capacity to create for us. The law is the creative aspect. Always desiring good for ourselves and others, we should have no hesitation in imposing our desires upon the law that they may be fulfilled. As we seek good for others, we will see good for ourselves. You know that old golden rule thing, do unto others? Yeah, that one. It's important. It's important in ways that most people don't even understand. But I hurried to get to this. He says, the only limit the law has in working for us is that it must work through us. We are the limiting factor. We are the multiplier. We are the recipient, and we are, you might use the word victim, of our bad choices and bad behaviors. but we can choose to make different choices and express different behaviors. He says life can give us only what we take. The taking is a thing of faith and understanding. And these are the things we've been talking about as we've gone through this book. And here's what I want to close with, this last section. Well, it's not the last section in the paragraph, but the last section I'm going to cover today. Holmes writes, if our thoughts are always constructive, we shall always be divinely guided. Think about that. If our thoughts are always constructive, well, okay, so maybe we got to work at creating that habit of thinking constructively. Complaint-free world, good place to start. Daily meditation, daily affirmative treatment, affirmations, Affirmations are great. You don't do 1,000 of them, write 1,000 out and try to cover all that in a day. Write 1 or 2 to begin with. Use that as a building block to create a foundation. Okay, he says, if our thoughts are always affirmative, the law will always respond affirmatively. Good creates more good. Good creates more good. Good expressing creates more good expressed. He says, if we live in an inward peace, we shall never be confused. And what he means by that, it's not just confused, but if we live with inner peace, chaos cannot invade that space. And chaos is what most people see outside of themselves and try to conquer outside of themselves, where the power and the truth of resolving chaos in one's life is to connect with that source within. If faith dominates our consciousness, we shall never be afraid. We are hardwired for fear. The brain is. But we don't have to let fear be our first responder. Got to learn how to deal with it. Easiest way, simplest way, daily affirmations, daily meditations, affirmative treatment. If we are always kind, we shall never know hate. There are people who say, yeah, but if I'm good, and there's still haters out in the world. You'd be surprised. You begin to create that reality for yourself. He says, if we think of life as an eternal springtime, forever blossoming anew into self-expression through us, we shall never grow old. Growing old is a state of mind. It has nothing to do with the physical body. There is a power and a presence that's available to us. We can put that power into practice in our life. Grandma Moses was able to start her career as a painter at 84. There are individuals in today's world, there are individuals living into their 90s and past the century mark that are refusing to sit down. They're refusing to be shuffled aside. They are stepping forth into their life experience, their life expression, and living life at 90, 99, 100 at higher and greater degrees of livingness and more abundance. It's available to each and every one of us. We'll pick this up next week where we left off. I hope that this was informative for you today. I hope all of these have been informative. And I appreciate hearing from you. You can email me. The email address, I believe, is up on the screen. And I answer emails. Like I say, I like hearing from you. And requests for topics to be covered, prayer treatment, whatever. Like to hear from you. As you go through the week, my friends, know that the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. The presence of God watches over you, because wherever you are, you can run, but you can't hide. Wherever you are, God is there. Know it. Know it for yourself. Embody it. And if God is there, all is well. Have a great week. Put principle into practice in your life. You won't be sorry. I'll see you when we come back.